What's up, sports fans, and welcome to the Sports Opinions Podcast. I am your host, as always, Alex Cuesta. With me today is a guy that I've tried to track down. You know, I figured that using my ties from home, he'd be easy to track down. Ended up being one of the hardest dudes I've had to track down. Good buddy, grew up with him, same friend circle growing up, Johnny Sheehan and that whole crew. Kevin Malast, former Rutgers great linebacker, pro NFL player, awesome dude all around. What up, Kev?
Hey, what's going on, Alex? Thanks so much, and I appreciate you staying up on me, man. It's such an awesome podcast, and dude, it's a pleasure to be on. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Hey, how could I let a pro football player that I know go, man? Like that just adds clout.
yeah, no doubt, man. It's so good to be on here, man. I'm fired up.
I'm pumped about that. So, yeah, Kev, any spots on social media that people can get in contact with you, follow you?
Yeah, for sure. I'm just Kevin Malast on Instagram and Kevin Malast on Twitter. The company I work for is called Malka Sports, so you can follow them on Instagram and Twitter as well.
And I want to ask you about that. So I see a lot of pictures. You're always up there. You're good friends with the McCourty twins. You have a very strong Rutgers connection. We'll talk more about the epic Rutgers teams that you were on. But What exactly do you do at work? Because I see all these pictures, and you kind of explained it to me when you were getting the job. But what exactly is it that you do right now?
Right now, my title is the VP of Talent for a sports marketing representation company called Malka Sports. And there's an awesome way how that all came about. Do you want me to go in detail about that?
Hell yeah, why not? We got time.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I love it. So, I had a very fun career at Rutgers and in the NFL, and I made a lot of awesome relationships. One of those relationships is actually a very dear one to my heart, and that's the guy who repped me as a player. His name's Pat Capra, and Pat ran a company called Lunar Sports Group, and he was a very good dude. I love the way he did business. He was awesome for me as a player, and he really worked his ass off for me. And to me, that's what an agent represented. That's what it was all about. Now, me, personally, I didn't ever see myself getting involved in this business. We just found out that I had a passion to help people and connect others, and obviously I have a passion for sports. So you pair those two, and it kind of brings me into this. And Pat started entertaining the idea, say, hey, Kev, he just saw I had a talent as far as, connecting others and developing trust and relationships. And he was like, hey, Kev, how would you feel about getting involved in this industry? And I was all for it. Once he brought it up to me, and I started thinking about it more and more, I was like, wow, that would be so cool to kind of serve other athletes and to kind of show them the way, just like I was shown the way, and give a player's perspective, which is kind of my role in the company, and look at it from a different angle. Pat definitely has all the business acumen, but I walk it as a player, and together with the both of us, it's a very cool team we have, and I love everything we represent in that world, and it's fun. So from there, we merged with a company called Malka Media Group, and they're about 55 creatives. They're all in-house. We share an office space with them, 2 different tax IDs, but we all work and blend together as one team. And we share an office up in Jersey City, and it's really cool, man. These people are super talented in the creative world, and that just opens up to a lot more capability as far as what we can offer our clients and as far as what we can do. So it's really cool.
That just sounds right up your alley. And it's interesting you talk about basically everything I've ever known about you, and anyone that's ever known you, your family, even your extended family with like your uncle. Like, it's no secret growing up in Manchester, like the Malasts were one of like the families of Manchester. It's not even like your brothers. They were friggin' awesome at football. You were one of the best running backs and linebackers in the history of the school. And that's not even like, and even wrestlers, like you were just an all around stud athlete. That's not to sugarcoat or blow smoke up your ass, but that's just reality of it. And just to hear that you're now into, guiding and helping. And like, even with me, like you're 2 years older than me. You were 2 years, I think. And even me, like you knew me. I hung around with Matt Heinous, Johnny Sheehan. You were good friends with Johnny Sheehan and everyone there. And it's like, we knew each other. We never really super hung out, but whenever we saw each other, we were friendly. But even coming in to the high school, you were super friendly to me, and you didn't have to be friendly to some young freshman 5'2" kid that was like 20 pounds soaking wet. But like you were never the type of dude to squash someone, even though you were the freshman that played varsity football, and you were the guy, but you were never the guy that squashed people. You helped them, you guided them, and it's just not surprising at all to hear the role that you're in now. So
I really appreciate that, Alex. That means a lot, and I really do pride myself on that. As far as just treating people a certain way, and that's why this alignment with my partner made just a lot of sense. That's why it was very organic and natural, and it's a very cool story. So when we go to, we talk about athletes or recruiting or people that deal with us on a regular basis, that's what it's all about, and relationships and how you treat people. I'm very close to the guy named Tim Fernetti. He's the president of IMG Sports right now. And I heard Tim once say, value the people, not the position or status. And to me, that is awesome. That's what it's all about. It's treating others a certain way just because you believe in tradition, legacy, and everything that comes along with that. And for you to say those words, that means a lot to me because I really did. Even dating back in middle school and Manchester High School and all those years, I just believed in treating people a certain way. It didn't matter. I don't care how many touchdowns I scored. And even when I go back now to Manchester, teachers don't remember specific stats. They just remember how you made them feel and how you made classmates feel. And to me, that's everything. So I really appreciate the kind words, Alex. Thanks so much.
absolutely, yeah. Anyone wants to watch how a star high school player should be, you take advice and watch Kevin Malast, and I don't know how many touchdowns you scored. Every single time you scored, you turned around, you handed the ball to ref, you went to the sideline, celebrated a little with your teammates, pretended like you've been there before, went back to work. Now it's done.
No doubt. No doubt. And like you said before, I was very blessed to have a family to look up to that paved the way for me. I had a brother who was my oldest brother, Brian, the middle brother, was just an absolute monster of a running back, and he always did that. He was the type of guy who would run you over and then help you up after he did it. And very, very cool to witness that. And definitely, it's safe to say there's definitely some high expectations for me. Following my two older brothers and my father, who obviously knows a ton about football. And what most people don't know, I have a father who's retired lieutenant colonel in the state police, two older brothers that played college football on full scholarships. However, the real person that runs the household is my mom. She's the most disciplined, tough lady, toughest lady out there, and she'll put you in your place in a heartbeat. She's always kept me humble, and I'm definitely appreciative of all the roles my whole family played in my life, and they made me the person I've always wanted to become. And because of that, that's why I'm able to establish good relationships, and it's brought me to this job I have now.
And that's just amazing. And I wish you nothing but the best in your current job. And definitely your dad was a major influence, former pro football player as well with you as well. So you have that pedigree. Your whole family had that pedigree. And I want to talk a little about your career because you're a very humble dude.
For sure.
You're awesome in that sense, but it's time to be a little unhumble here. You were a part of literally the heyday of Rutgers football, the best probably 4 years. Your first year you got there, I think you guys made your first bowl, and I don't know how long you played in the Insight Bowl, which I remember Kathy Yayak had a picture of you on the kickoff in the Insight Bowl, and it was like a pride and joy. And it was a pride and joy for everyone there, and it was awesome to watch you on TV whenever you guys got on. You got to experience the amazing teams with Mike Teal, the McCourties, even Brian Leonard, who you brought into Manchester at one point to meet everyone, which was freaking awesome. Ray Rice, who was one of the most talented player in the nation at one point. So what was your 4 years of experience? And I forgot to mention Coach Greg Schiano, who is
for sure
an absolute stud in coaching, and it's a travesty he doesn't have a full a head coaching job again. But,
absolutely.
First, talk about, we covered high school and how great you were there, but what were those 4 years at Rutgers like, just playing around so much greatness and you being, a standout middle linebacker and a really good one and one of the best in the nation in terms of stopping the run?
It was, Alex, I mean, you're giving me such an awesome opportunity now to reflect on an amazing time at Rutgers, and I appreciate that. It was a very interesting time to go to Rutgers. My senior year in high school, I was already committed to Rutgers. I committed to Rutgers my junior year in high school. I just knew I wanted to go there. I love Coach Sheehan and everything he represented. And he reminded me a lot like my father in a disciplined way. And I was very excited to just go an hour up the turnpike and go play for a guy like that. And for a program, he was turning around tremendously. But it was hard for a lot of people to see. So my senior year, we actually lost. They actually lost to New Hampshire. So they upset Michigan State, and then the following week they lost to New Hampshire. And I remember, coaches calling and wondering if I'd decommit and things like that. But, I was a man of my word. I wanted to stick by the program, and I believe in everything Coach Shannon was doing. And just very excited to be a part of that program. And then we started bringing in some guys, like a lot of 2- and 3-star guys, who kind of just had a lot of ability. They were tough people who just love football. And like you said, my freshman year, they haven't been to a bowl game since 1978. And that was the only bowl game, mind you, in the 150 year. Next year is going to be 150 years of college football. Rutgers is the birthplace of college football. So they only won the one bowl game in 1978. Coincidentally, went against Arizona State. And so my freshman year, once we got that bowl bid, and I was lucky enough to play as a true freshman, and like you said, on special teams and being a part of that team, Alex, you would have thought we were going to the national championship.
And it was crazy. It was crazy as a fan watching it too, because like after your sophomore year, it became an expectation. It wasn't if Rutgers was going to make a bowl. It was what bowl was Rutgers going to make. And, you know, in our wildest dreams, I don't think anybody thought that Rutgers would have a chance for the national championship. When they did, I think that was your junior year you guys almost went. I think Jeremy Ito made that field goal over Louisville. Was that your junior year?
Yeah. So that was my sophomore year. That was the 06 team. And
okay.
I played on – obviously, I played a lot in that team as well. And that was just a tremendous ride. That just shows what if Rutgers reaches their potential, you know, whatever year that may be, just the excitement that can surround that program, just how passionate New Jersey fan base is, just how passionate Rutgers fans are. And that year really showed, you know, what Rutgers can be in the grand scheme of things, which, like, all that potential, I'm a true believer, is kind of what got us into the Big Ten. Just showing the excitement and a lot of the pedigree of the players that were coming out of there that would get a lot of NFL opportunity. But, yeah, that was that 06 team. We upset Louisville in an unbelievable game at Rutgers, a moment I'll never forget.
I was yelling. I was literally screaming watching that field goal in so much excitement. It was unbelievable to watch.
Oh, my God. It was an amazing moment. It was super surreal. And then when that crowd stormed the field, it was like the pinnacle of Rutgers football.
Now,
I can't imagine. Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go just quickly. Coming from Manchester, did you ever think you'd have that opportunity to be on a field where a crowd rushed it and was rushing towards you? Because you were one of the main factors, your whole team, all the players, these fans, these people that you went to class with, probably some of them you've never seen before in your life because Rutgers is massive, rushing the field and trying to shake your hand, saying, awesome job, you know, being pumped for you. Did you ever think you'd get to experience that elation?
Honestly, it's something you dream of, to be in those situations in college football. I mean, that is really what college football is all about, to experience those type of moments. I didn't think it would happen in that capacity, to be honest. I don't think anybody truly saw it happen. I mean, we all believe in the vision, but it was such a crazy moment to be a part of, to be 9-0. And at that point, that got us, I think, number 5. We were 5th in the country at that moment. And, again, just an amazing moment. No, I don't think to be completely honest, didn't even picture it looking like that quick.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. So we're going to fast forward a little. You finished your career junior, senior year. Did you start your sophomore year and then start the rest of the 3 at middle linebacker?
So I started my junior and senior at linebacker, and I was a kind of a stand-in linebacker, a backup, a big-time special teamer my freshman and sophomore year. In fact, my freshman year, I wasn't even supposed to play, but one of our senior linebackers tore his ACL, and that's how I got my nod. So I didn't play until the 5th game of the year. My freshman year, I was supposed to redshirt and use that year's development. But I got thrown in the mix. I was practicing really well. I guess I was developing at a better rate than maybe Rutgers predicted. And so I got to play. So it was a really cool and humbling experience.
Oh, I remember that moment. It was news throughout the school from every coach in there that was following you. My uncle, Coach Porterways, and everyone was like, Kevin's playing tonight. Kevin's playing tonight. Like, we were all pumped. So that was definitely a cool moment. You know, I sound like a complete fanboy, but people don't understand the small town that he came from. We don't get these dudes. We had Andrew Valman. We had some decent athletes, but we don't get these guys that are on TV doing this great stuff. Like, so it's a different thing. There's guys like you. There's guys like Jimmy Lawson. There's so few of the elite level talent players, and we have a lot of elite level talent that just never comes to be or doesn't. You know, injuries happen, things happen, but you guys stayed healthy enough and were blessed to get there. So again, fast forwarding a little, your career, you go to 4 straight bowls. Rutgers is fantastic, and you now entered in the NFL spectrum. You played for 4 different teams: the Bears, Titans, Jags. You played for the Titans twice, actually, so 3 different teams. You were, as far as I remember, you really were a standout in terms of all the training camps you were in, and
Yep.
it was really tough decisions. And a lot of teams, I remember you were basically last cut on most of your teams, or one of the last cuts,
Yep.
and you really had such a great opportunity to experience pro football. What was it like being around such just ridiculous talent all the time there?
The NFL experience was God. I would have to say it's very humbling. To be in a linebacker room with Brian Urlacher. I mean, that was the guy I looked up to when I was ever since I was in high school. I thought he was one of the best linebackers to ever play the game.
And how did he
just
treat
went to the end.
how did he treat you as a kid in a training camp, just bright-eyed kid trying to make his mark?
He was great. He was awesome. He was super nice, and that's why, I always say, I always talk about the power of perspective. Whenever I talk to other people, you have these experiences. Some are major and some are smaller, but they always give you perspective, and it tells you how to go about your own life and how to treat others. Brian is one of those guys who gave me unbelievable perspective of just how to treat other people. Brian was the king of New York. I mean, he literally, king of Chicago. And he could have did anything he wanted.
And I think he was a king of New York, too. So many kids in New York, New Jersey looked up to him. He was just – Brian Urlacher was a movement in the NFL.
Exactly. He was the king of the NFL, for sure. I mean, you're talking about an athlete that was sponsored by Vitamin Water, Nike, Old Spice. I mean, all the major sponsors he was a part of. But that guy was so nice. It almost catches you off guard, just how nice he was. And he actually took to me when I was a young player in Chicago, because I was there in 2009 and 2010 as a practice squad player. Even though I didn't make the team, I still went on practice squad. He was just, if I came off the field or whatever, because I was a big standing guy too, in training camps, if guys were down, I could play all three linebacker positions. So I was a good standing guy to give a good positive looks as far as what our offense was looking for, what our defense was looking for. And Brian would immediately coach me up off the field. And he had to do that. I was a free agent linebacker. I wasn't drafted. I had to work my way into that position. And, very, very cool experience. But Brian taught me just how to treat others and how to treat others with respect, no matter who you are. And if Brian's treating people that way, well, then I certainly have to be treating people that way.
There's no excuse for anybody else at all for not treating
exactly. And Brian was so impressive as far as just the type of professional he was. I mean, he knew that middle linebacker spot so well. I mean, unbelievable well. I mean, he's the type of guy who call out formations, call out motions. He knew plays were coming beforehand. I mean, he just really was an adamant professional. And that was definitely my biggest takeaway from him.
So I got to ask you, what is the different level of preparation? Even going in as a practice squad, training camp player, you obviously experienced big-time football preparation in college. And, we were actually pretty good, I think, at Manchester under Coach Panicu, under Coach Covert, at doing the chalk talk side. Both of those guys were very good at their X's and O's. But what was it like stepping into an NFL room and looking at a defensive playbook and how these NFL coaches want to attack things? How different and how much more expansive and difficult was it to understand some of this stuff?
I'm going to be honest. The biggest transition for me was coming from high school to college. I mean, that's when it's really another level. Like you said, Coach Covert and Panicu, they were awesome as far as getting you ready. They taught me passion for football and the approach and starting to read guard pulls and stuff like that from the linebacker position, which is really awesome and was very helpful. That's why I was able to have early success at Rutgers. But, going to Rutgers, especially playing for Coach Shiano, who's a defensive mind, obviously he's the team coordinator at Ohio State right now. And that guy just knows defense in and out. So he really got a lot of us, not only just me, but you're talking about any NFL guy who came from Rutgers. We were all very prepared as far as how to prepare yourself in the NFL, how
basically
to approach
the Patriots defense. I feel like Bill Belichick just literally, I don't know what it was, during the heyday of the Patriots defense, the second iteration, after the Vrabels, the McGinnis, after that group, I feel like Belichick was like, oh, okay, there's a Rutgers standout at defense in the third round. I'm going to take him. There's another one in the fourth round. I'm going to take him next year, second, third. It's crazy just between Logan Ryan, the McCourties, and just all these dudes that he just kind of was like, yep, Rutgers. It just goes to show the type of talent you guys had.
There's so many guys. That just shows the type of mentality of the type of player they want as far as their preparation and their football IQ. I mean, one thing I think that goes unnoticed as far as why the Patriots are so successful is because they have just tremendous football IQs. They always know where they're at in the game, what they want to do. They always know real-time game situations. and that's just a high football IQ player. That's what Coach Shiano really started doing with a lot of us, which made us very successful in the NFL. I mean, when I look back, I mean, I was a talented player. I had enough talent to play in the NFL, but I mean, basically my platform at Rutgers and what I learned there, that's what allowed me to survive 4 years in the NFL. It's because of that. If I didn't have that, I don't think I would have maybe even lasted a year, to be honest. But I'm very grateful for what I did under Shiano and what I learned from him.
Now, that's a great transition. You're obviously still very close to Rutgers. I see you're at a lot of things. You support Eric
Yeah.
LeGrand, which I'm constantly pulling for Eric LeGrand, and he just does some amazing things. And the fact that that man constantly has a smile on his face is unbelievable.
For sure.
You're very close to Rutgers. You're close to Rutgers football. You enlightened me saying you're still very close in the wrestling scene, so I want to touch on that as well. Rutgers football first. I was super hyped this year. Arthur Sikowski was coming in. I really believed in the kid. I still believe in the kid. I think he has a good chance at being a good football player. But what went wrong under Chris Ash this year? I feel like they took a lot of steps back. The defense wasn't a traditional, tough, hard-nosed defense. There was always one skill player following with, Kenny Britt, Laquan Treadwell, Leonte Carew. Always good receivers, Mohamed Sanu, all these guys. I feel like there isn't that guy this year. The running game is not what it is. Nothing very Rutgers is there right now. What really, in your eyes, went wrong this season?
You know what? Every season is never a guarantee, and you never know what's going to come around the corner. And especially dealing with colleges and college kids, there's a lot of distractions involved with that. Whether there's off field issues, and some things as a coach you can't really control. You can't be there every single moment in these kids' lives to help them make those decisions. Now you can guide them a certain way.
Issue. I think it just had something. A person in like a murder case. Something ridiculous like that. That I think I saw in the report.
Yeah, they did. But I think Coach Ash handled that very well as far as bringing it to the attention of the university. So he didn't try to hide it or mask it. He took it head on, which I respect that in him. I think they do actually have a lot of really good young players who are just kind of going through some growing pains and developing in certain ways. I think Arthur's going to be a great quarterback. They got that running back Blackshear. They got the young freshman Isaiah Pacheco, who's an absolute beast. I think he's going to be a great player. They just kind of, and there's a lot of, even though it's major scores they might be losing by or whatever, they kept the Northwestern game close, and Northwestern's very competitive in that conference. In the past, they won some Big Ten games in the past, so you never know. Every year is different. Hopefully they can continue to get better and develop, and kind of take it from there.
The way I see it with Rutgers right now, I feel like skill position-wise and defensively for the most part, we've been at a national conference level. Where I think we lack is our meat and potatoes, our big boys on the offensive line especially. When we have the size, their technique isn't great. But when they're small, they're very technique, but they're undersized. So they get beaten up by these maulers from Michigan State, Ohio State. Or when they're big and clunkier, they get outspeed. And I think this comes back to something that Chris Ash needs to do, and I still have confidence in him, even though it's waning a little bit. It's tough not to as a fan seeing things like this, very disappointing. But I feel like this is where we need to see him really try and pull in the pipeline in New Jersey. Like, it's tough to see a kid like Quentin Nelson, a short conference kid, not go to Rutgers. And I know it's tough to compete against these teams, but there's certain guys that Rutgers needs to keep home. What is your, obviously the mold of the guy that we want basically the greater Middlesex short conference talent. It's some of the best talent in the nation. Do you think Go ahead, Kevin.
No, no, for sure. You make a lot of great points. I think New Jersey has a tremendous amount of talent. The high schools here are awesome, and a lot of these kids are very well coached too. So a lot of them are prepared to play, early in their college careers. You want to keep the better talent in New Jersey. What I always say about Rutgers, though, specifically, I can really speak to my experience there, and I thought that's a good mold to look at as far as recruiting a guy who at times might not be the most highly recruited guy, but you find a mold of a guy who's very passionate. They're athletic. They have just enough athleticism to play, but you can build and develop those guys. So by the time they're juniors and seniors, these guys can play with anybody in the country. And I think that's something we did really well at Rutgers. We found a mold of guy, a character guy in a certain way, who cared about football, was very passionate to play and get better every day and had that approach. So, I mean, for an example, well, first of all, I'm one of those examples, but another example that I love talking about is Devin McCourty. So Devin McCourty, he never got any scholarship offers. We wanted Jason McCourty, who had a full scholarship to Boston College. Boston College wouldn't honor Devin a scholarship. So that's why Rutgers started entertaining, Jason, and they're like, hey, we'll give Devin a scholarship and you decide to come here. So that's how we got Devin McCourty. Now, Devin had no stars coming out. He redshirted as a freshman. By the time he leaves, he's a first-round pick.
That's ridiculous to think of now.
He's been a captain. He's been a captain for the Patriots for the last 8 years. 4-time Super Bowl appearances, 2-time Super Bowl champ, and he was an All-Pro out in 2 different positions.
He's unbelievable.
Corner and safety. He's a true Patriot at heart, and it's amazing. So look at that return of investment. But that's the type of guy Rutgers was going after. And with that, with that success that we started having at Rutgers, and we started getting them. I always say too, after my freshman year, I played as a true freshman. I'm like, okay, I'm in a pretty good spot here. I'm playing early. I'm doing really well. I'm developing. I'm getting bigger, faster, and stronger. Alex, after my freshman year, we brought in 5 linebackers, and they were 3 stars or above, out of Miami, out of South Jersey. And I'm like, okay, this is the business of college football. And that just comes with getting better, showing signs of development, and going from there. And obviously, as we got better, we're able to bring in guys like who could have went anywhere in the country. Kenny Brake could have went anywhere he wanted in the country, decided to stay home at Rutgers. Anthony Davis is another one. He could have went anywhere he wanted in the country and literally went 10 minutes down the road right from Piscataway right to New Brunswick. So, I mean, that comes from development. Again, that comes from finding guys who can stretch their ceiling and develop them into big-time athletes who eventually compete with anybody in the country. And I think Rutgers did a very good job of that. They kind of got to keep that model, and that's not easy to do. Sometimes recruiting guys out of high school and trying to figure out if they love football or not and who the type of men they will become. But that's what makes college great, and that's what makes college, very tasking to be a head coach there.
So before we move on real quick note to Rutgers football, Chris Ash. You might want to get Mr. Malast over here on the recruiting trail because that passion that he speaks about, that's something that it makes me want to sit there, throw pads on and be like, I still got eligibility. Let's go. Let's do this.
I'll tell you what, Alex, my experiences at Rutgers, I'm super, super humbled and proud to be part of that program. I really am. Not only for the experiences we had on the field, but the relationships I made off the field. I made some of my best friends from that program. The McCourties, included, but guys like Eric LeGrand, guys like Brian Leonard, who hosted me as an official visit. All these people became real friends of mine and real brothers. Not just guys I played with, every Saturday, and we had these moments on the field. But we're there for each other's charity events. We're there to help each other. As Eric LeGrand, he's big into spinal cord research. I'm a big advocate of that for my own reasons. My brother got a spinal cord injury my freshman year at Rutgers. Yeah. So, having that family I to lean on during my time at Rutgers, it made it that much more special for me. And I really bought into that program, and that program bought into me. And that's why I have such amazing relationships there. And I pray every kid has that same experience, but it's on the individual to have that experience. And I spoke to the team actually not that long ago, and that's all I told them. I go, you're responsible for creating that experience. And I only pray every kid has that type of experience, the same one that I had.
That's just awesome. And, this might make me go a little bit over on the podcast, but I don't care because I really want to ask it. Is it kind of surreal? Now, I already asked about your experience of rushing, but is it kind of surreal to turn around and, when you obviously know the McCourty twins on a different level, Eric LeGrand, Brian Leonard, all these guys on a different level that ended up playing pro ball. Is it weird when you just turn around and you know them as regular people, but then you go on Sundays and you're like, they're legitimate superstars. They're household names. They're legitimate guys. Is it ever kind of like a little bit of like a pinch me moment where it's like you're a kid back in the day watching Deion Sanders and Ty Law and all these unbelievable players play, and then all of a sudden you're looking up now at the screen going, I know him. I played against him. I hit him every day. And it's like, is it like kind of like a pinch me moment when you look up and you're like, I kind of made it and I lived the dream and I'm still living the dream.
I'm not going to lie. It is pretty surreal. It is pretty surreal, like, having these relationships with such amazing people. These guys are amazing athletes. And remember earlier when I talked about perspective, they all given me perspective as well. You know what I mean? I mean, the McCourties guys, obviously they made a ton of money playing an amazing sport, and they're both very good at it. I had the opportunity of playing with Jason in Tennessee. I got active in Tennessee playing with Jason, what a cool memory that was. In fact, I was actually living with him out there. It was such a cool moment to have those moments at Rutgers and have those moments in Tennessee. But to get to know these guys as people and the way the way you watch them interact and treat others, the way they approach their charities, their family lives, the friendships they have, their journeys to that point. And to me, it gives me unbelievable perspective. And I always say about perspective is recognize it and develop yourself from learning from those experiences. So I take that all in and I try to appreciate every moment I have with all these guys. And I do that with all my relationships, whether they're with big time stars or my childhood best friend who's James Gann, who Now he's like one of my old time favorite teammates, but not many people know that, because he played at Manchester High School. But
the best center kicker of all time.
yeah, exactly. He looked like Sebastian Janikowski out there, kicking kickoffs.
Or what was that Penn State kicker that was running people over? That was
yeah, that was definitely No, for sure, one of the biggest kickers out there. But it's really cool. I mean, again, just an amazing perspective. The thing I loved about football was developing these relationships and getting to know other people's stories, and it gives you an awesome perspective. And I try not to, take any of those moments for granted. And it's been really cool, but it is really amazing to have these type of relationships with such famous people. Very cool.
So talking about relationships, you enlightened me and let me know that you're actually good friends with the Rutgers wrestling coach, Scott Goodale. What people don't know about you, and it's kind of something that's a dying breed of the multi-sport athlete. You were, like I said, a standout football player, but you were also one of the state's best wrestlers. And that was, again, from freshman year through senior year. You were just super talented on the mat as well. You wrestled against some of the best people in the state. And you said you maintained a relationship with Rutgers Wrestling, which now has a national stigma. And being in the Big Ten, they've kind of kicked the door in and let people know that they're here. And we talked a little bit before the podcast. I kind of started with the recruitment of Scott Winston, who was undefeated in the state of New Jersey, probably one of the best to ever do it at the state of New Jersey. What is that relationship like? What are your ties still to the wrestling world and everything that goes with it right now?
Yeah, for sure. So I've known Scott since high school when he was the head coach at Jackson Memorial High School. And, in fact, I went against one of his wrestlers in the region finals, and then we trained together leading up to the state tournament. And he's just always been like a humble, great guy, very respected coach in the short conference. Made Jackson not only one of the best teams in the state of New Jersey, but I think one of the best high school teams in the country. And the guy just has an enthusiasm for wrestling and enthusiasm for developing men, and really good guy. And so that got him the opportunity to become the head coach of the Rutgers wrestling program, which was a very, underserved program at the time. Coach Sachi was a very good coach, but I think it's needed a little different change of pace. And when you look at, the same thing with football, you look at all the talent football in New Jersey, it's the same thing in Jersey wrestling. I mean, the talent that comes out of Jersey wrestling is ridiculous.
I think it might be better.
I mean,
it might be better. Penny Academy on its own is like unbelievable with the amount of talent. And then you have all the individual talent.
And we got to tout short conference. Short conference talent.
Oh, no doubt.
We might have the best talent in the state. I know Greater Middlesex and Essex might have something to say about it, but honestly, even Bergen, short conference is the best. I don't care.
Oh, for sure. Especially those years, like I swear, when I wrestled there, I mean, you got guys like Frank Molinaro.
Oh my God!
Who is a monster at Penn State.
And Frankie Eggers was there earlier.
Frankie Eggers, wrestler. Absolutely.
Basically, yeah.
Absolutely. Damian Hahn, the Worthy brothers. Like, I mean, it goes way back. The tradition's super strong.
And then even Jimmy Lawson from Manchester ourselves. Jimmy was another one, undefeated heavyweight, 2-time champion.
Actually, Jimmy was a 3-time state champion.
3-time state champion, yeah.
Yeah, unbelievable. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of proud tradition there. So, Scott, getting the opportunity at Rutgers, trying to keep those Jersey guys in-house, and he finally landed Scotty Winston was one of his first big recruits. I think Scotty was the number 2 or 3 overall recruit in the entire country at all weight class.
Yeah,
and it was a big land for him. And Scotty had a great relationship with Coach Goodale, and he had an awesome career at Rutgers. And then from there, Scott just developed these guys. He developed an awesome program, an expectation of winning, and an awesome tradition around there. And then now that room is super tough. The assistant coaches he has there, it's amazing. They have some of the best assistants in the country, and they really live and breathe that program and its values. And because of that, Scott, when he took over that program, they were dead last. Scott Goodale. Now last year they finished 11th in the country. They're competing in the Big Ten Conference, which is the toughest wrestling conference in the country, and they're
Hands
absolutely
down.
killing it. And it's crazy, full circle. You know, I developed that relationship with Scott. We kept in touch. When he came to Rutgers Wrestling, I was still a player at Rutgers back in '07. And it's really cool. We developed an awesome relationship to where I'm very involved with the program when it comes to, you know, being around recruits and things like that, and speaking to current wrestlers. I've developed a lot of relationships with the guys who came in that program and left the program, mentored some of them in certain ways. And it's very cool. And even more, we actually, because we do coaches as well, we not only do football players, but we do coaches. We actually represent Scott Goodale now on a professional level. So to work with him at a professional level is, you know, just full circle and very fun. And that's what makes my job super incredible, is working with guys like him.
That's unbelievable. Now, Kevin, I'm going to book you now ahead of time for when Matt Madness comes around, because we also talked about this. Everyone talks about March Madness when it comes around. If people don't understand how fun Matt Madness is, they're losing out. But so I want to book you now, basically, for at the beginning of Matt Madness, because I want to sit there and I want to talk, have a whole entire wrestling show with you, where we're talking about all the guys in the nation, the kids in Rutgers that are set up to compete nationally. And let's do a fun one with that and really open up people's eyes to how fun and awesome Rutgers wrestling is and just national wrestling. You down for that?
Oh, I'm down for it. I don't know if you have enough time in the day, though, for me to talk about wrestling. I mean, I'll talk to you to death about wrestling.
I'm okay. Listen, you forget I was best friends with the Meanies growing up. So I was around wrestling my whole life, too, between Billy and Julie. And so it was something that I'm just naturally – I enjoyed wrestling. If I didn't run into a track, I would have definitely wrestled.
There you go. Yeah. So, yeah, you did pretty well yourself in track, though. So I think that was a great sport for you, man. You had an awesome career. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was all right. College wasn't what it could be. But you know what, though? We do everything we do, and we get to where we got to get to. It brings us right here. And we're doing this fun podcast. So, but all right, brother. Absolutely. I really appreciate you giving me some time, man.
No, it's been my pleasure. It's been a lot of fun. I love reflecting. And again, I really believe in what you're doing. And it's really amazing. And thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate it again. That was Kevin Malast. You heard former Rutgers standout middle linebacker, great short conference talent in New Jersey, pro NFL player at the linebacker position. Just an all-around stand-up, great guy. Again, where do you work for?
I work for Malka Sports. Malka Sports.
Yeah, and people can find you social media at Kevin Malast on Twitter and Instagram. Definitely go give him a follow. And as for me, Alex Cuesta, host of the Sports Opinions podcast, find me on Twitter and Instagram at @A_Cuesta30. Find Sports Opinions on Twitter at SportsOpinion30. Instagram, Sports Opinions 30. Visit the Facebook page to see all past content, blog content. And you can find us virtually anywhere podcasts are found: Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play Music, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, YouTube, now Stitcher, and TuneIn. So basically, there's no excuse not to listen. Go give us a 5-star review. Subscribe. Again, Kevin, thank you so much for taking some time, brother.
Absolutely. My pleasure. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
All right, everyone. This was the Sports Opinions podcast. Have a good one.